That
Well, like
intro gets me every time.
I started, you know how, because I use this really, I use Restream, and it's really easy because I can just throw a video in front. The one I did last week, I put the wrong video in front. So like, it's like my whole purpose was not to have to edit later. And then, but if you start the video with the wrong thing, it's like, nah, you're stuck with it. So the last one didn't even have the right video. How you doing? It's August 15th. We've been having a little chat catching up, but what you been working on?
Oh, like comedy related or just in general? I'm guessing you mean comedy related.
I think you can answer the question any way you want. What comes first for you right now?
Good question. Just working on focus, trying not to be completely distracted. I'm a little distracted today. Last 2 days, I was focused, able to get stuff done. Before that, I had like a week and a half of just I would find, and this is part ADHD, I think, but like if you give me, so I'm not that organized. My space isn't all that clean, but if you wanted me to clean my office space, give me a work project with a deadline that has nothing to do with it, and I will clean. I will do anything else but this. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, cleaning. Sorry, you kind of lost me because I went into space there for a second. But my wife notices that when I'm wandering around and in like flow, like I'm on a phone call and it's an important business call, she always puts a washcloth in my hand because I'm literally just wandering around and like the house is never cleaner than when I'm like in flow focus.
I do that too. I'm a, what was I just gonna say? Wanderer. Yeah, when I'm having conversations, unless I need my computer, then obviously I need to stay seated. But if I'm just catching up with somebody, I probably walk like a mile during like a half an hour phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I pace. I'm a pacer.
Same. Had a lot less calls and meetings lately too. My life is definitely changing. It's much more podcasts and
Well,
strategies.
those are harder to walk around during, though.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm just realizing I used to do a lot more walking because that's how I get my walks in is those conversations. Interesting. I need to book some just to get some exercise.
Yeah.
So,
So comedy wise, I've been trying to get back to it, trying to force myself to write some new. Well, I'll come up with random ideas, and then I think I'll remember them later, and I don't. I've written down a few. I did get a call. There's so a community college here has a funny raiser, and they have different people come and do stand-up comedy, and so they talked to me about doing that. And that's in February, so I got a long time for that. But I might do that. I might recommend a few other local comedians because they really should be connected with the local comedians here because we have some really good ones. So that will be something to like prepare for if I end up doing that show, and I will try to push myself to do that.
it's interesting. You grabbed your neck as soon as you were talking about it.
Uh-oh. What does that mean?
Well, just the way your tone is. You sounded a bit anxious about it, like you weren't sure you wanted to do it, and then you started talking about how you'd connect other people with it, which could be a form of self-sabotage because they might get your spot, and then you'd be like, there's no spot for me. I got out of it, right? But that's just kind of what I picked up on. But
your level of awareness never ceases to amaze me. Like, no, it is that. Like, it's both. So I gain something from connecting people and being of value, even if it's not me. Like, if somebody's a prospective client, I have no problem connecting them with somebody else. I don't try to force a fit.
Mhm.
Same with something like this, but there's twofold. I do gain something. I love connecting these people to something that they can do. And yeah, I bet there's a part of self-sabotage where it's like, well, if I have these other people do it, then it's okay if I just turn it down because I'm giving them somebody better than me anyways. So there is that aspect of it too. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a form of self-sabotage. Like you're giving yourself an out so you can say later, well, there wasn't a spot for me anyway, or they're better than me, or like whatever thoughts go through your head. And I have all those kind of things all the time. But yeah, I was like literally watching it. And because it's a strategy, I do it too, right? Or I did it more. I'm getting better at catching it in the moment, but there's a strategy that's going on in your head to make a soft landing for you, I think. And yet, what you want to do is do comedy. So you're missing out on an opportunity to apply your craft and continue to refine it, right? If you don't just go, fuck it, I'm doing it. Like, I'm going, and then set the clock, put a, a stopwatch on your wall that's counting down, apply a little extra pressure. Not
Oh
that you
boy.
or we need pressure, but just, it's hard though, right? Because we talked about, here we go into design language, but you have an open heart like I do. So it's, you don't want to say you will do something because you don't have that willpower, but you do have sacral energy of like, yeah, I want to do this. So really what you probably need to do is figure out, do you want to do that particular event? Because maybe it's just that one doesn't feel right, or the reasons why it doesn't feel right um, are in your subconscious, in your unconscious, right?
I know I do want to do it. I think I'm just, especially when I'm removed, when it's been a long time, or it feels like it's been a long time since I've done stand up, I get further removed from my material. I'm out of the flow. It's harder to get back in that. And I know there's a lot of work to get back to that level. So I think there's that hesitation. And it's just easier to back out of something than really ramp it up and go all in and give a decent performance.
Mm-hmm. Let me just check something here. I can't help but nerd out on this stuff, especially lately. Like it's getting worse. So
Or better, depends
or
on
Betty, yeah. I mean, it's empowering. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So you know what? Can we dig into this for a minute?
Yeah.
Let's do that because I love this stuff. I'm gonna move that over there. I'm gonna put this here, and we will talk about comedy and stuff. But I want to make sure you either do that show or when your next show is, because maybe that's not the right show, right?
Okay.
So you and I are very similar, actually, and my wife, in that we have the same open centers. So you're going to think about other people's problems. You're going to, other people will inspire you, and you'll want to probably replicate what they're doing. And it might come even with a bit of jealousy that they're succeeding and while you're not. Because I've been working through that a lot lately, and a lot of it comes from that open heart.
Okay.
The feeling, the need to prove, or the thinking that you need to prove yourself. And so I'll reiterate for you and me, you and I with an open heart, we're not here to prove ourselves. So if you can let yourself go with that, you can remove some of that mental pressure of seeing other people succeeding and being possibly jealous or frustrated by their success when you're not having the same. And then, you're trying to be, you're not self, as they call it, is that you're trying to be certain about things. And then avoiding conflict in truth. So possibly even with yourself, right? Like, like you're just like, hey, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm thinking I might connect some other people with it. You might actually be like avoiding truth with yourself, right? You're literally removing the possibility that you might be able to do the thing. And then you've got that root pressure of always needing that feeling of, if I just get this thing done, I can rest. And you're never going to really get to feel that very often, just like I would. So that circuitry can mess with you. Now, you have a defined sacral and you have the 3420. So for you, it's an but being a manifesting generator, it's more like, how do you feel right now? But then you still need to be able to be willing to like change your mind later. So that's really hard for you and I, and especially around people that aren't designed that way. They don't get us at all. They're like, why did you sign up for that? And they didn't follow through. Well, we're designed to do that, to experience things. So, but because you have that defined sacral, I can ask you sacral questions about. I'll just move this now. I can ask you sacral questions to help you come to clarity about this gig, because it may be not this gig. It might be something about this gig. It might be like it may not even be what you're thinking, and so you're missing out on your opportunity. So if you're game for it, we could do what we call like a sacral calibration. So we're going to ask you random questions, and then I'm going to start asking direct questions.
Okay.
I want you, like, you're not allowed to pause and go, because as soon as I see your eyes looking up, like you're thinking about it, no. These are like, just respond, or even just, right? Or You and I are more people. Like,
I don't know why that's always hard for me to answer like that, but yeah.
But that's why we're going to practice. So, are you sitting down?
Mm-hmm.
Are you drinking coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Is the coffee from Starbucks?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Are you wearing a top hat?
Mm.
Are you funny?
Jury's out. I don't know.
Dude, I think you're funny. So
Thank you. I think this is just more lack of confidence rather than. Yeah, that one's hard for me.
Did you have a gut response, possibly?
I did. I might have, but if so, I think I like ruled it out right away. I I feel like I'm right down the middle. I don't think definitively yes or no to that question.
Okay. Do you think if you get more experience, you'll be funnier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you got to keep doing stuff, obviously. This particular gig that we're talking about, um, uh, actually, I gotta bounce around and come back to that because I
Yep.
already know what the
Yep.
question's coming. But
Yep.
um, are you wearing shorts?
Mm-mm.
Are you going to play sports tonight?
Mm-mm.
Would you like to play sports tonight?
Mm-hmm. I
Oh,
guess.
there you go. So your body wants to move. So maybe not sports, but like your body, you got an affirmative response there that your body wants some movement today. So
You know, I have a sprained ankle, so I don't know how much I'll do, but I got to figure something out.
ah, do upwards yoga or
Yeah.
right. Like you don't have to move your legs necessarily, right? If you got a sprained ankle, protect that, but move your body in another way.
Okay.
Go on the Nintendo and use the nunchucks or but like move energy.
Okay.
Also for you, remember you have that 3420. That's a powerhouse. If you're feeling energy stuck inside you, and the fact that you want to move your body, you may have some energy stuck. Remember, I was talking about you put your elbow on a hard surface, and you just slam. Make sure you're not wearing something that hurts. So take that off, and you just slam it down once, possibly twice, and you will give your body that metaphysical signal to let that shit out. Like you just imagine it like you're shooting a lightning bolt out of your arm. And
I've felt myself needing that lately, but the couple times when I felt like that, I wasn't in a place where I could do that. But
yeah, I hear that. I mean, the first time I did it at home, my wife got really upset. Like it came across as violence. And so then I explained to her what I was doing. So that wasn't directed at you, it was directed at this person at work, but I needed to do that. And now she's totally fine, right? So even that is like just situational. But I think you can hit a bed mattress, like, because it's really about the force. I think there's, having it meet resistance helps more, but hitting
yeah,
a mattress won't make a huge boom, a
right.
couch, right? Where you can probably get, and I've actually done it where, actually, I've done this. Like, I'm in a social situation, like everyone's having cocktails or whatever. I'm
Okay.
sitting on a couch. I'll just go bang, 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 like not nearly as much. Because in my mind, I'm moving 30% of the energy with each hit versus one strike, right? Again, it's
Okay.
all energetics and it's all intention. So my intention is I want to get the energy out. I'll find a way. So you might want to do that and soon.
Okay.
So I think you got some pent up energy there, and that can lead to anxiety and all sorts of stuff, right? It's adrenaline.
Yeah.
You're riding too high. So okay, um, do you get a buzz out of doing stand up comedy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, if you could, would you do 2 shows a week?
Mm-hmm.
If you could, would you do 5 shows a week?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. So is it a hobby?
I couldn't answer before my brain stepped in and started questioning it. I don't know.
I think that it sounds like it's more of a no, but don't be afraid of that answer.
Okay.
I've spent time with that too. Like, oh, do I want to be a famous drummer? And I get like and
Yeah.
then
Do I want to be a famous comedian? I know the answer to that. I
like
don't.
you just don't even want the life that comes with that, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
And the cost.
Oh, to your family
Oh,
life?
to everything. Yeah.
Mm,
To my
yeah.
mental health, to my family. Like to be a professional comedian, I would not be able to have my family.
Hmm. Okay. So do you love comedy?
Yeah.
Is stand up the best medium for you?
Ooh.
I think you just got a no or a meh there.
I don't know. Yeah. Not sure. I'm definitely not positive that it is.
Yeah, and so I mean, for our podcast here, we're just always talking about comedy. Like it's usually stand up, and I think it's partly because you do it, and that inspired me, and I'm interested in trying it. Although I need to go through the same questions of like, am I serious about it, or I just enjoy the process, right? So it's good. So right now, comedy, you're comfortable, I would say, with comedy being your hobby, because then you get to enjoy it, and then it's possibly like doing being in the right environment for your comedy, right?
Yeah.
So stand up means you're standing up on stage and everybody's watching, right? So you get a buzz from that, and you will have had people describe that buzz to you, and everybody wants that buzz, but maybe you don't want that buzz. You know what I mean? You felt it, you felt electric, but maybe you're a sketch comedy guy. Maybe you're a Conan O'Brien who's was influential in so many things in the background, and then your heyday comes later, if you even wanted said heyday, right? So I think these are always interesting questions to ask because it gives you clarity, it gives you a little freedom to go, oh, geez, I'm and you and I with that same openness. I only learned this week. Like that open head makes like I'm realizing I need to live vicariously through people that are doing what looks like fun instead of being, and I realized the undercurrent was being slightly jealous that they were doing it and I wasn't. But then every situation I looked at, I was like, damn, they did a lot of work and sacrificed a lot, just like you talked about. And how am I going to be a famous drummer on big stages and have a giant consulting practice and be a pickleball player on the circuit? And, like in my mind, I want to do all these things, right?
Yep.
And I just realized this week that, like, nope. But I love pickleball. Great way to move energy. If I actually just truly enjoyed it, what if I actually really did become good because I had removed all the pressure of being a pickleball player? Like in the back of my mind, I heard someone say that pickleball might be in the 2028 Olympics they're hoping for.
So it could replace breaking then.
What's that?
It could replace breaking. Did you watch that? We got to go on a tangent.
Please don't talk about the poor Australian woman.
Oh my! She has a PhD in it. That's not a poor Australian woman. She
has a PhD in breakdance.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's an offshoot. Hold on here. Yeah, she does. Like, and she's a professor at a university. It's not like,
wow.
She's a PhD lecturer. And let me see here.
Like, can I comment on?
Yeah, she has a PhD in breakdancing. Really, seriously.
I mean, I already don't think any certification these days is worth anything. So I'm just going to say that, like all the others, is just like, she paid money to someone to prove that she has certain skills. And we all do that every day in our jobs. So it's, anyways, my heart bled for her when she was getting zeros. And she has to stand there. Like the whole routine is like, you're dissing the other person. So she's like dissing the other person.
She's pointing to her chest and she
international TV. And she knows she's getting creamed. Like, to score me up on this, because they'd have the points up, I'm sure. Although maybe they've trained not to look at it, but like, I would be looking. And then, like, just visually watching, like she'd be like, holy shit, that person's really good. Like with every move, instead of, oh, that person did that slightly better than me.
But she had to. Also, her husband was the one who organized like the qualification, all of that. Like they were in it together. I feel like
it was nepotism.
She's a very, very intelligent person. Mm-hmm. I feel like she knew what she was getting into, and maybe not to this level, but I would also think that she's strong enough to utilize this. Because, I mean, there's so many millions of views on videos that are just not even actually showing the highlights. That's how big she is right now. Cash in on it. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard to move past. You're getting hate online and people making fun of you. But if you can channel it in the right way, this is a huge opportunity. The world knows you. So, and some people might not want that, and that happens. But if you're competing in the Olympics, at least part of you wants to be on a worldwide stage.
Yeah. The way you described it is very interesting, because in my head, I'm like, was that the plan? Like only be
brilliant.
Like
if that was the plan,
right?
If that's the plan, brilliant. There should be a comedic movie starring like Kristen Wiig from SNL. She would be really good in that role. Like this should be a freaking movie and brilliant, and she should make lots of money off it if it was planned. If it's not, still hilarious to us and entertaining. I watched a video of two guys like watching it and commenting on it who knew break dancing, and it was hilarious. Just like, hey, whose mom is this? Like, it was very funny, just their comments. But they also did something that most of us who don't know break dancing did, and said like, okay, that was actually a really good move. Like, look at the flexibility. They were actually pointing out she has a lot of skill. Mm-hmm. She just was trying to be really unique and doing her own moves, which I would think with her level of education and understanding of the art, she would understand that maybe if she said, I did all my own moves, she would know that some of those would be made fun of or not accepted as like, oh, it's amazing. It's unique.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them were kind of cheesy, but that happens with my jokes too. I have done cheesy jokes where, yeah, it doesn't go over well.
Super interesting. I mean, because we're at a time where I'm feeling manipulated by everything, AI and everything else. And, the Olympics to me more and more represent only this idea of national pride when every nation's hurting. The Olympians, from what I understand, really don't make money. Like they're not getting paid like professional athletes. And then being put on this world stage. And so, like, if she's the best, and again, I'm trying not to be cruel, but like if she's the best breakdancer in Australia,
No way she is. No way she is.
right? So there's that. But then if she's even just in the top, then I don't think breakdancing's that big in Australia, right? At which point, like, there's like, is it kind of like the Jamaican bobsled team? Like, technically, they had no business being there because they didn't have snow where they live, right? But they did it, and it was a story, and it's amazing. But like, are the Olympics in on it because they keep talking about this high level of steroid? Like, it's kind of like emotional steroids. They're manipulating their viewers.
Well, somewhat. See, what this has become, this has gone so viral, and they're not bringing back breakdancing next 4 years. If I'm involved in the marketing for Olympics, it is front and center. We're doing it again. I don't care if it looks like trash. This has gone viral. Do you know how many people next 4 years would tune in to see this after that? Everybody. I would watch it. If I'm going to the Olympics, that's one of the tickets I want. I want to be at the breakdancing competition because I want to see somebody flop out there, do some crazy new moves, and go viral and say, hey, I was there, and have the video for it. Like, bring it back. What are you doing?
Yeah, the one thing I first felt like in a trigger, like, oh, it's dumb. And then I was like, oh, no, it's brilliant. Like, they made the breakdancing thing not feel like another Olympic event where everyone's way far back. Like, the venue, they had the dance floor,
Yeah.
it was the lights, it was
like a battle arena.
Yeah, like, they did it right. And I think that felt really foreign for about a minute and a half. I was like, because I had no idea it was there until I saw it. And I was like, is this a joke? Like, and then I was like, oh, okay, no, I can appreciate this. Like, the Canadian breakdancer that won, I think he won gold, was the first thing I saw. I saw the Australian one later.
I did see it.
And he was like, like the things he did. It's like, okay, now that's someone that has been doing this his whole life, and he's committed to it. Like,
yep.
It's so weird. Oh my goodness. But it's, yeah. Is it genius? Is it manipulative? Is it a little of both? And then all we're doing is talking about it. Like, everybody's talking about it, right? So it's no good. No such thing as bad publicity. Like, you're right. She's set for life if she has a good publicist and a team that swoops in and goes, "This is your moment," right?
Yeah, because then you can take this in so many directions. Like you can use this fame for good, pretty much no matter what lane you want to go in.
Yeah.
Even if you take screenshots of all the hate and threats and mean comments you get, become a motivational speaker if that's what you want to do. Sell the rights to a TV show or movie. There's going to be people wanting to do it based on you. There will. So you could do so many things with this if you're able, take care of your mental health. See a counselor, get through that. I'm sure it's traumatic. I'm sure it is. It's got to be hard to go through. It'd be hard for me, but it's an opportunity. And I guess a lot of trauma can be seen as an opportunity.
Oh, for sure. The one part that still I can't let go of, is she's not a 19-year-old woman.
36.
Right? So she's a mature adult with experience.
And a PhD, lots of schooling, and she's a professor. Like, she
can analyze other people's performances. So more than anyone would be like, "Oof, I'm not going to do so well here." Right? Like, the sense of self is, so, which makes me feel manipulated. Like, it was like, "Oh, you got this spot instead of someone else. I want to know why." Because if like, is that really the best in Australia, or did someone else get fucked over? Which is also not okay. But then, I go back to the empath of like, here's this professional person that's out there doing this. And it felt like the auditions for American Idol. right? You know, where everybody makes fun of the people that keep coming back, and but when he was saying that, when I brought that up, who was that guy? Something Wong,
William Hung.
William Hung,
She
right?
bangs, she bangs.
Like
Everybody remembers him. And he
he's
made a career out of it. He
yeah,
sold albums. The dude sold albums. He had several albums and they sold because of the popularity from the show. You don't have to be great at something. You have to be notable. You have to stand out in people's minds, make a lasting impression. She did.
yeah, she did.
So my favorite's like the flop on the ground where it's like she's laying on the ground and she kind of like flops at a fish. There's the bunny hop. There's like the sweeping motion. Like there's, people are going to be doing those moves. Like, yes, as a joke, but people around the world are going to be doing those moves because of her. That's something
Yeah,
cool.
that is cool. Yeah, I mean, I hope she's enjoying the moment and laughing about it. And kudos to her if like this was actually the plan and strategy. I still will go back to the fact that like if
Really.
someone else is missing an opportunity and someone is doing it for entrepreneurial, like if there's a plan outside of just being an Olympian, then it makes the whole Olympics a joke at the same time, right? So there is a fine line there where it's like, what are we doing with what we're being subjected to at the moment?
And maybe it was a plan to just get the credential, right? Because hey, you're a professor, you have a PhD in breakdancing, you are an Olympian, like just having that on your title, that's huge professionally, huge.
Mhm.
She can always say she was an Olympian, and that's big.
Yeah, well, as soon as you said that, there is a giant. So in Victoria, between Victoria and the airport, there's these giant billboards on the highway.
Okay.
It's on Indigenous land, and they can do what they want, and that's how they're making money. So kudos to them, right? No one else can do that. So it's in this one weird passage. It's just so noticeable. It's just sign after sign after sign after sign after sign, and then it just stops again. So um, there's one. It's like this guy. It's a picture of his face, and it says his name, and then just two words: realtor, Olympian. Every time I go by, I'm like, but
That's
I
all
think
you
he's
need to
a
know.
rower. Like, I don't need a rower to sell my house. Like, what does that got to do?
Do you know what event?
Oh, I think it was rowing. Victoria's got
It
a lot.
was rowing.
I think so. I'm like 95%.
So does he just specialize in beach and lake homes then?
Well, yeah. I mean, he knows a good lakefront view for
You
sure.
gotta have a niche, yeah. It's like
So that's where
you
the
gotta
comedy.
tie it in with your specialty. I don't want him selling me farmland, it's like dudes out on a boat somewhere, like sell me a beach home, a lake home.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're gonna check the guy out, like, does he have a pager? Because if he's out in the lake and I need to close the deal in 5 minutes, I need to know that he's got a cellular powered Apple Watch or something when he's out there. Because
So what event would you least want to have a realtor from?
it's a good question.
Decathlon, because they like spread themselves so thin that you don't think they're going to dedicate themselves to one thing.
The thought that came to me was javelin, because I don't want them
Okay.
showing up and shooting stuff through the windows. But the other reason I say that is when we were talking about the Australian woman, you talk about adding new events.
Yeah.
Javelin, like it hasn't changed in 200 years. It's really just like someone has spent 4 years contorting their body just like a fraction of percent more than the human beings 4 years before. Like, have we not mutated that sport to the point where if we need to make space, certain sports, like, are people breaking records in javelin anymore? Like, I don't know that, but I
would think so.
faster.
Bigger, stronger, better technology, better ways to like improve muscle mass and test and recover and all that. So I would think little bits, yeah.
Yeah. That's why basketball, right? My understanding is basketball was invented for short people, and now you've got these behemoths that are 7'8".
If it was invented for short people, there was a big oversight there. It's like, well, what if somebody could just block all of the balls that the short people are shooting? Oh no.
No, honestly, I think basketball is dumb at this point. I think it's, but that's just me. Or you change the game and make the net adjust based on who's shooting it. So you can tell who's got the ball in their hands. Oh, it's Shaq. Sorry, that's going up another 3 feet. And so as he's trying to shoot, it's going. He's got to. I mean, I'm so frustrated by the Olympics. And sport.
Well, pickleball should be. I think it should be. I heard that the popularity is dying down some. Somebody was telling me the other day that like courts around in certain parts here in the Midwest that they converted to pickleball, they're converting back to tennis. So
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
don't know. That
It's
might just be a here thing. I still like, yeah, I like both, but I don't have the ankles anymore for tennis. So
I mean, that's
pickleball.
the idea with pickleball is more people can play it. So I
Yeah.
think its growth is still going to be. It's kind of like the PC growing. Like even if you don't like Windows, they had such a foothold that it was kind of an inevitable virus to grow. But maybe the overall speed of popularity is slowing because people tried it. It's got its base, and now it's really. I mean, so much about pickleball is what level are you at? Because a senior can play it and a child can play it, and some people are playing it to just play because of their ankles, and some want to be athletes, and so it's like I've never seen a sport that is so much about like are you a 3.25 or a 3.5 because there's a difference. You can't be in this tournament if you're a 3.5 because
What is that? What does that mean?
so they've got a scoring system. I don't even know if it starts at one, but it goes up to six now. I think it used to go up to five. So it's also like people keep getting better. They're like, oh, okay, there's a new level. Like you can actually like eat the ball and poop it out your butt and shoot it, right? Like so, we need to invent a new level. But
That sounds like talent to me.
and maybe it'll happen. But yeah, there's just different levels, and then they have criteria. Like if you're I don't know exactly, but if you're like a 3.5, you could return a difficult volley with a backspin, right? Like it's about the
Okay.
shots and choices, and but it's not just the being the offense. It's you can do these kind of defensive moves, you can do these kind of offensive moves, and you can do these kind of serves with a certain amount of success. And so by the time you get up to like four, you should be able to do everything at 100% level, but not an elite level, and etc.
Okay.
But it's a big thing, like at least here in Victoria, which I'd say bias wise, like I'm in the town of Newlywed and Nearly Dead, so there's a lot of seniors here, and they need to move their bodies, and yoga's
Newlywed and nearly
Newlywed and
dead.
Nearly Dead. That's Victoria.
That's pretty clever. Who came up with that?
I heard it in the '80s.
Oh wow.
It was also more true then. Like the city's a little hipper now, but when I first moved to Victoria in '92, it was very newlywed, nearly dead. Like people went there as tourists to get married, they went to University of Victoria, or they came here to die. And what's happened is over time, it's such a beautiful place with all these marinas and stuff that the rich move here and form businesses here. So there's a lot of businesses head offices, particularly in tech, that are here. Much like Bermuda. Like Bermuda's, as you know, I lived in Bermuda for 5 years, but I think there's like 60,000 registered companies in Bermuda. But the population of Bermuda, I don't know what it is now, but I think it's like 38,000. So there's more companies in Bermuda than there are people. And there just exists
Crazy.
as file folders for tax reasons. And I've seen these, I've seen it all. It's ridiculous. It's banking and reinsurance, i.e., insurance companies insuring other insurance companies, which is the other thing I think I'm just going to say this right here. Reinsurance and insurance is horseshit because they're literally your insurer, if they're hit too hard, they'll just go bankrupt. Like they just can. So then you don't get your insurance, right? So any major catastrophe, like don't buy certain major or insurances because you'll never see it. You'll just wait and not take care of yourself, thinking that one day you'll get your payday. And I can assure you, these companies don't have the money to do that. So, so it's sickening. Actually, you know what? Can I tell you about my 9/11 story?
Sure, as long you know we're streaming, so
Well, I don't care.
yeah.
It's just not necessarily funny, but this
Okay.
is what I observed. So I was in Bermuda during 9/11. I remember
Okay.
I was doing a server migration, so I was going to be there all night. And
Okay.
I feel like it was like 11 in the morning, 10 in the morning. And I can remember sitting in the computer room and someone came in and said, a plane hit the World Trade Center. Now, from my perspective, I didn't really know about the World Trade Center. Like everyone does now, but at the time, I've been to New York like 5 times. But unless you're looking at it from a distance, you don't know how tall they are. Because when you're at street level, everything's just big, right? So I don't even know if I was close to them ever. So
Okay.
when I saw the picture of the plane in the building, I thought a Cessna had flown into a small apartment or like a large apartment building. Like the whole didn't make sense to me just how massive a thing this was, right? So I still don't really have context of how big the building is besides documentaries and photos. I never saw it for myself, just how massive it was. So I thought, oh, okay. Cessna, when it was like someone's like, no, that was like a 737 or something. Like, and then I was like, okay. So then all night I'm like watching this unfold, and all the planes are being landed and stuff. And Bermuda got a ton of them because international flights coming to New York and stuff.
Oh.
Bermuda was like there was planes everywhere, and the next day, no, 2 days later, Wendy was supposed to be the who's the chief bridesmaid, maid of honor at her
Yeah.
best friend's wedding in Victoria.
I like chief bridesmaid. That sounds cool. I like that better.
Maybe it should be that then, but so she was supposed to come home, and so it ended up being a super stressful time. Like she was gonna fly, and I was like, "You're not flying. We don't know what's going on. You're not getting on a plane." And she was also 6 months pregnant, so just the stress of the event, plus you're not getting on a plane. Like I basically said, you're not going. And then in the end, the FCC or whatever assured that the next day anyway. So I was no longer the bad guy. Why am I telling you this? Oh yeah, so as those next 3 days plays out and the whole world's watching stuff, I'm now at another insurance company, a reinsurance company. So I won't say the name of it because they didn't do anything necessarily wrong, but I don't also, yeah, I'll just say it's a really large reinsurance company. And I was doing another migration that weekend, which means I'm like in offices I would never normally be in, right? I'm a high-end Microsoft consultant. I'm migrating all of their data at the time from Windows NT to Windows 2000. And so I'm in the CEO's office. I'm in the board office. I'm on their computers. I'm like everything. So I didn't do anything, but I hear things, right? So I'm in the room next to the CEO, and his plane was permitted to fly into Bermuda during the no-fly zone period. So his private, because he had to go to Bermuda because the rule is you when you make payments and do deals, you have to be in the country of origin. So he had flown in from Paris to Bermuda, but he had to physically fly into Bermuda, sign a check, and then fly back to Paris. So that's like an 8-hour flight, by the way. So he flew in. I think he was there less than 90 minutes and then flew out. But he wrote a check for $750 million. And it was because like this is going to be the start. This is our budget to pay insurance to people. It wasn't like they had no idea of how much money was going to even be needed. It was just this is what we're going to budget for it. So even that, right? Like I don't even know if we ever hear the truth about how much money they actually had access to. And his only comment as he left was, "Hey, everybody, just let you know there won't be any Christmas bonuses this year." That was it. It wasn't like, "Oh fuck, this is a big deal and we might lose." Like he already knew that he wouldn't have to actually pay anything or much. Like $750 million, by the way, to them, a $20 billion company probably at the time. Like, come on. So
that's still. I mean, that's almost 5%, right? That's not nothing.
But do you think how many people you think actually got that money?
Oh, I don't
By the time the lawyers are involved in the administration and the paperwork, we're talking like it made no impact on people's lives. The 5 years later, they got it, right? It was so far in the rearview mirror. It was just attached to rage and resentment at that point. So it's that's going to be what it is. Let's face it. Yeah. And then another guy started a new company. Actually, there was like 6 companies formed in Bermuda, like within a week of the World Trade Center. Okay. And the one guy raised, I think it was $4 billion in capital from his living room during the first week, because all of a sudden they were inventing terrorism insurance. Right? I don't think we even had that before. And if we did, it was like a small line item. Now all of a sudden, there's a whole new industry born where everyone's buying terrorism insurance. So this company raises $4 billion, and I did a lot of work for that company over the next 3 years, including having to help him, the CEO, not help him directly, but my job was to move his tech. He was in the Lloyd's of London building, which is a very interesting, cool building to be inside, by the way. It's just super. Okay. All the plumbing and elevators are on the outside of the building. It's really, and then just all these escalators up the middle, like super over the top. But he wasn't allowed in that building anymore because he quit his other company, I think, to form this company. And he wasn't allowed. They made it so he couldn't live or work inside the same building. So then he bought an office or rented an office space in the building next door. I think it was called Tower 42. And I think Tower 42, you weren't even allowed to have any offices in the bottom 20 floors because someone had bombed the lobby years before and it wasn't considered safe.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was Tower 42. So I had to help set up his office, like set up his networking and stuff. And this is all in reflection. I had no idea really what was going on at the time. This is just like looking back and being like, holy shit. his office was so that he could see through the window into his other office, like in the other building, because he didn't trust anyone, so he had to be able to watch everyone
Wow.
from his office. Like that level of money, that level of just awful greed, taking
Yeah.
advantage of people and their emotions and their finances, and like disgusting. Right? He ended up. I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. He ended up being holding the record until Jeff Bezos for the biggest divorce payment or payout ever to his wife. So at the time, it was like I think she got $750 million or something. Like he was worth a lot of money. It was a ridiculous amount until Bezos cheated on his wife. At which point it was like it didn't even like wasn't even on the same
Yeah.
stratosphere.
That's not something you want to hold a record for.
Yeah. Wait. So, anyways, I just had to get that out because I just witnessed so many awful things, really, and
Yeah.
nobody hears this shit or sees it. That we just keep marching on and paying insurance for things that you're never gonna fucking see. You're never gonna see that money.
No. Yeah, there's so much of that. Just whatever. Yeah, that's why one of my big phrases is "It's all marketing, honey." I'll say that to Erica all the time. Like, I mean, behind everything is marketing. There's everything. Like,
Was it manipulation or marketing? Because
oh, they're the same thing. They're the same thing.
well,
Manipulation is a form of marketing. It's a tool used in marketing.
sure, yes, for sure. Because like everyone needs to market. How do you sell your? How do you make yourself
Right.
available to people? Right. I really
Right.
am hoping I'm not manipulative when I do it. In fact, I
Doesn't
feel
matter if it's
physically sick.
churches, politics, businesses, nonprofit. They all utilize marketing for pretty much everything.
Yeah. Okay. It's 5-2. I think you got to go by like 10 or 12, 15 after. Let's get back to comedy. Sorry.
All right. Yeah.
But you know what I've realized lately? I need to just let some of these stories out because they're just I'm the only one who knows, and Wendy, and she's heard it so many times that she doesn't want to hear it. So she's like, "Ugh, I've said it." Like, talking about comedy, one of my favorite stand-up acts is Seinfeld's "I'm Telling You for the Last Time," which is
Okay.
about a year before 9/11, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, it's some of I think his best work. And the
Okay.
whole purpose was he was retiring all of his jokes, right? And he
Okay.
had all these, I was going to say magicians, comedians at the funeral of his jokes. Like Gary Shandling was there. Like it was just a cool setup.
I've seen the opening for that. I don't know if I watched the whole thing. I did watch the intro of that at least.
It's still probably my favorite stand up, other than maybe Delirious with Eddie Murphy, as far as
Oh
just
yeah.
raw, unbridled. Like I didn't stop laughing ever. Um, why was I telling you that? Oh, because he did a bit on 9/11 there. He was talking about airport security, and this is like a year before 9/11. Like, and all of
Yeah.
his observations. He's talking about people operating the machines where they're looking for stuff, and he's like, just all
Okay.
these people are like they're paid minimum wage, and they're just like, oh, is that a bowling ball with a candle in it? That's fine. Oh, is that a hair dryer with a scope on it? Whatever. I got to get to lunch. Like it was like, and it was quite true, really, at that time. So ah,
Yeah, I was just watching it today. I watched some Jimmy Carr. Yeah, he invites crowd participation, so that's a lot of fun to watch. And it got recommended to me, just the YouTube algorithm. They knew I would love it. Well, some computer knew I would love it. But like, yeah, just different comebacks and things, and the crowd sending things through text. And it's, yeah, if you're ever just looking for a little pick me up, some decent stand up comedy. Yeah, Jimmy Carr, I think, is underrated here in the States. I'm sure he's huge overseas, but like he's not talked about a lot here. But he is fantastic. He is so quick on his feet. I don't know of another comedian that's that quick with that high level of comeback in the moment. I don't know if there's another one who matches that. Anyone.
and how do you think he does that? And I guess the first thing I say is
Practice, I think.
I've only become familiar with him in probably like I've seen his face, but he keeps appearing on my radar all the time the last couple of weeks. But he is doing a show here with Jim Jeffries, so I'm sure that's a bit of the YouTube algorithm making sure that I'm seeing his stuff in the area, right?
Are you
So
gonna go?
I've seen Jim Jeffries twice. The first one was funny. The second was agonizing. Like he just seemed. I don't know if it was a bad night. Someone threw something on the stage, like a Kleenex, at him, and which when something comes from like out of nowhere. I guess it's kind of scary, but like you could tell,
Yeah.
like he was off for the rest of the night. Like he was just all he
Okay.
could think of was danger. I'm sure. So, and I think it literally was like a towel or something. It wasn't a heavy object, but
Be hard to throw a single Kleenex.
yeah, whatever it was like so much. Oh, you know what? It's not. That's not fair.
He
Maybe it
threw a
was
Kleenex at me. Shoot
maybe
him.
something with a little more mass, but it was definitely not like a beer. It wasn't a shoe. It was like something that kind of floated onto the stage. So it probably was a. It might have been a T-shirt bound up, like
Okay.
maybe someone wrote.
Probably somebody trying to promote something, or maybe they thought it would be a thoughtful gesture, and he would say, "Oh, look, yeah, thanks."
But he was rattled, and then
Okay.
then it just didn't go well the rest of the night. Like it wasn't as his compared to the last time. I was like, oh, that was painful. I wanted to leave at times because he was just angry.
The same happened with when I saw Chappelle live.
Mm-hmm.
People were shouting out things, and Rick James had recently passed, and people were shouting out things from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he yelled back at the audience, and he was off the rest of the time. It wasn't a great performance. It wasn't a great show.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something to think about too. Okay, so back to Jimmy Carr. So what
Yeah.
can you just like I've seen little bits. Mostly I've seen him talking with people in podcasts more so than his live stuff so far. I haven't really seen his stand up. Is he a crowd work guy then? It sounds like if he's that quick, he is.
He usually involves it. So he's one-liners, really clever, somewhat dark one-liners. I guess I'd say like do you know what Anthony Jeselnik is?
I think you've mentioned that name before.
Maybe like half as dark as him. Um, but pretty dark. A lot of self-deprecation. Um, but yeah, a lot of crowd work as well. He works it in. He doesn't usually start with it. He does a lot of one-liners though. Usually not a lot of stories.
Hmm.
He's not afraid to be controversial or tiptoe on that line at all. Um, yeah, he's just unbelievably clever and quick on his feet.
So when he prepares for a show, do you think he's got a bunch of one-liners so that if he loses the audience in something, he just pulls one of those out of the chute? Because if he's not a storyteller, he's
Yeah.
counting on the interaction mostly, I guess, right? Like he probably enjoys it, I'm sure. So
That and I think he invites crowds to send texts ahead of time. At least I've seen that because I've seen that prepare it on the screen. And my guess is he got those maybe a day in advance, maybe a few hours in advance. So he was able to prepare. So they would show it up there and he could do it in the moment. I've seen him do live crowd work too, like from videos, not but on the spot where things, he wouldn't be able to predict what they were going to say as well. So I'm sure there's some components where he has a chance to write ahead of time or somebody on his team writes, but then other times he's just quick in the moment with responses.
yeah,
And he also find people that are good with crowd work. Once you've watched a lot, you can also tell they have clever ways to stall for just a few seconds while the other part of their brain is figuring out the sharp comeback or how to tie it in with something. They're like, oh, what did you say? Or they'll repeat the question from the audience. Sometimes they might just do that so everybody can hear, but other times it's to buy themselves just a little bit of time to come up with that clever comeback.
so we've talked about that before, but you think some of that's timing, like opening the space up too? I definitely either heard. I think it was Louis C.K. It might have been Louis C.K., but I definitely think Nate Bargatze had said like one of the most enjoyable moments is when there's no laughs and there's no sound because that everybody's just waiting for the next one. Like the
Yeah.
anticipation's different, right? And that's really powerful.
He
So
could be building that too. Like one of his responses, he said, like, well, it's a surprise, and nobody knew where he's going. And I don't know if he knew where it was going. And he paused for like 3-4 seconds and then brought it all together. But it was a response to something. So I don't think it was pre-planned. And he perfectly wove it together. But it was really interesting. I feel like he was buying extra time, and he just knew that he's brilliant enough in a comedic sense that he could tie it together and really pull off a really good joke.
yeah, or just let it pause and channel what comes out, like and trust. If you have trust in your craft and your preparation and everything, that's basically channeling. I think is just it's coming out, and you don't even have to. You're not thinking about it. In confidence that your body remembers, and you're just it just comes out. So,
Yeah.
like earlier when before we started recording, you remember we were talking about the UTI thing, and there was something that even when I said it, I was like, "Oh, that's good," and now neither of us can remember it. Like it wasn't like a prepared statement. I don't remember how the thought came. It just went boop like a coin into a slot, and too bad we weren't recording that part because I liked it. But I think that's how channeling works sometimes. Is it's really just a connection to your inner trust and soul, right? You're just actually like, there it is. I know it's going to be there, right? And that only comes with confidence and experience. Which, coming back to, we were talking about with you earlier, like this gig that you got coming up. Um, yeah, do you want to do it?
I do. I do. And so next time we have this, I'd like to talk about. I don't think we covered it before, the mascara bit, working out that. Um,
Yeah, I don't remember the mascara, so that might be new. Do you want
I
to
think I told you
work
about
it
it.
a
There
bit?
was a radio commercial. So, let's wrap up in like 5 if that's all right. But
Sure.
a radio commercial for Better Than Sex mascara.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So better than
So
sex.
working through that
All right.
would be good. I thought of one other thing. I don't have it all put together, but I like to make stupid parodies out of songs. So like if it's Total Eclipse of the Fart or things like that. And my kids said, and this part's true. They asked me to promise to only sing the real lyrics because they got tired of it. So I said okay. But then here's where I came up with a joke is. So they asked me to promise to only sing the real lyrics. So I said, yes, I'll only say the original lyrics. And then my oldest said, okay, Dad, let's put on one of your rap records. So obviously there's words in that I can't say. So
Oh, I
I
see.
don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
if I should say like the specific record where people will know, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, he can't.
So that so that was like you, like, I'll show you. I'll put this on, and then you'd be like, Dad, please change the lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say those lyrics. I know I just promised. I
Sorry, that,
can't.
that one took a second for it to land, but I think it's just something about I didn't pick up on a word there, a nuance of where you're going with it, but the premise of that is definitely funny.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's just something I wrote. That I have to figure out how to like expand on and stuff. But I could see certain audience like that. I need to pause, give audiences time, or figure out a different way to
That
really let that hit.
that could be a whole bit. Like, I'm a huge fan of Weird Al, and in a way, when you change lyrics like that, it's sort of a Weird Al-y thing, right? But without the accordion. But in your case, it's that being creative with familiar works, which is
Yeah,
a great strategy because you already have 80% of the visual in front of them. So now it's just like going for the punchline. And being like a doting dad, like you are, it's you could be the Weird Al of not. I'm not trying to say do the Weird Al thing, but like there's so many stories you could tell or scenarios that you could invent that is just all about lyric manipulation to not fuck up your kids or something. Like you
yeah,
could be the Tipper Gore of the 40 something men circuit or whatever, right? So
that's funny. Yeah. Weird Al, and the Weird Al story of like him not wanting to show up at industry events.
mm,
So he always kind of felt like a fraud, even though he reached a certain level of fame. And so he would never show up at industry events or parties or anything. And he finally went to one. He got up enough courage, and he went. And like, I guess it was the story's like right when he got there, or a few minutes in, he heard someone say, "Holy shit, it's Weird Al!" And he looked, and the person who said it was Paul McCartney.
that's
So
awesome.
like one of the kings of music. Holy shit, it's Weird Al! Like that had to feel good, like being not thinking you're a fraud and stuff, and the person saying like, "Holy shit, you're here!" Like is freaking Paul McCartney.
One, and in a way, and I'm sure he didn't do this on purpose because it was for those emotions, but like delaying his entry into that circle, like he already had a certain celebrity that when he arrived, he was a bigger deal. If he was always at the events, he might not have even stood out nearly as much to these people because it'd just be like, oh, that's that guy. He's like the gaffer that makes fun of everyone. But it
Right.
was almost like he delayed not on purpose, but just by the time he arrived, yeah, he had his own legacy that someone like Paul would stand like that. I mean, that would feel great for sure. And you know, from what I understand, he didn't really get a lot of flack from most artists. I think Prince refused, and I know Coolio refused, like gave
I
him
was
shit.
just gonna say, I remember there being beef with Coolio. I loved Amish Paradise. I at one point I knew every single word to that because I liked the original. I liked Gangsta's Paradise, and I liked the Amish one as well. I knew it word for word.
Well, I know he always asked permission, so I forget what happened with that, but I think he did ask for permission, and maybe the wrong person approved it. And but Coolio, like if you have your PR person, it's just like yeah, sure, fine. Who are you? I'm not sure what happened there, but it did seem strange because Coolio seemed like this rap, like he's dead now, I think, but he was, was this rapper that was really badass, but also seemed to have a sense of humor, right?
Yeah,
And then I was like, well, maybe he didn't, maybe like I felt like I didn't know the guy after that, but not that I ever knew him. But I just remember like observing the whole thing, going like, that's really weird, didn't
yeah.
something didn't line up there. Someone wasn't telling the truth, or it was just literally something got messed up, and it would have been easier to work it out on the side, but.
Yeah, I'm sure it was good for him in the long term. Coolio, like it helped rise the profile of his song and his work. So
Yeah. Um. Okay, it's 10 past. Should we wrap for today?
yeah, I think that sounds
It's
good.
been
It's
a few
fun.
weeks.
And I think we'll hit a stride here doing these regularly if you're up for it. I always enjoy it.
Remind me later today or tomorrow, and I'll get it in the calendar. I've
Okay.
definitely just been kind of sink or swim lately, so just floating. Okay, buddy. I'll play the outro, and I'll see you next time.
Okay. See ya.